Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and I am privileged to be joined by a great friend of Forbidden Planet, our returning multiple appearance guest, Ben Aaronovitch. How are you, mate?
Ray, I'm fine, thank you very much.
And we're here to talk about a glorious achievement, which is 10 years of Ben's epic novel series, Magic Detective Adventure series, Rivers of London.
Did 10 years of I Survived Rivers of London. Yes, Rivers of London. If you can survive 10 years, you can do anything.
And how does it feel to be 10 years into this old universe you've created?
Well, I'm getting arthritis and my hair's falling out. So yeah. And I was fairly certain I was much browner haired before I started. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's really weird. It's like I kind of like going dog years now because it's like I go in book years. So I'm like where I am in the book series is more important than how many actual physical years it is. The only thing I think about years now is, oh my god, I gotta get this done in time for the next year's release. It's like so. It just feels very strange. I mean, no one really thought the book series was going to be this successful, and so therefore nobody had any contingency plans for 10 years. I mean, obviously I would have carried on writing until they told me to stop.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, you must keep going. I'm like, okay, fine. It's like, oh, what inducements can we offer you to keep going? And I'm like, oh, my agent quickly steps in and goes, vast sums of money. Sums of money, no, bags and bags. And I'm going, yeah, okay, that's totally it.
That's totally what I'm into. So the thing is, because you've spawned sort of, it's a kind of at least a dually delivered universe, because you've got your epic series of an ongoing series of books, novels, and then you also have the ongoing comic books and graphic novels from those good people at Titan Comics, my close personal friends at Titan Comics, which you sort of co-write with Andrew. How did it feel taking that universe that you'd established so sort of indelibly in print, and then being able to widen it out into another medium?
It sounds so unmeretricious. I went, I want to write comics. Quick, I've got this IP. I can fully tighten it to make it let me do a TV show and write comics. Yay! It's much more joyful than that. You make it sound like it was. Andrew, I can get him to let us write comics. Yay!
Yeah.
So this isn't hard work. I've done some hard work in my life, and writing comics and books is not it. Yeah. I mean, it's hard work in the same way I assume that mad people who do triathlons find training for triathlon is a hard work, but it's not really work. It's not work the way like digging a ditch or working in a shop. The things that I have done, I haven't dug a ditch because you'd have to be mad. But I have like worked in shops and stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, I
wanted to write comics, and I managed to use my IP to allow bully people to let me write comics. Yeah, for me. Now I've got comics on my CV.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with most mediums, to be honest. Yeah. So, I'm not proud. I mean, I used to work for television, which means I got no, pride at all. So, so I will get on with it. I like the comics. The comics are fun. You can do things in comics you can't do in books, and vice versa. So for me, the comics, I don't think of them as separate things. The comics and the books are the same thing for me. They're just different kind of expressions of the universe, man.
Yeah, really. Right. Yeah, right on. And at this moment, I'm going to say, just to keep things on a purely fiscal track, all of Ben's novels and all of his epic comics co-written with Andrew Cartmel, can be ordered from the links attached to this conversation.
Yes, folks, you can buy everything here.
It's so true. So,
or you could just cut out the middleman and come over and give me some money.
Yeah, we'll set up. We'll set up a Kickstarter.
The next book.
Well, it's funny you should say that, mate, because I was going to ask you what's next for Peter Grant.
As if I know. I know. Well, he's at the moment in the stage of writing. I'm happy he's in bloody Manchester.
Yeah.
And going to Glossop very soon. In fact, the next chapter. So
nice. Yeah.
I never understood. There's going to be crimes. He's going to solve them. It's a very simple format. It's not complicated kind of like discursive philosophical novels about the state of being. I mean, if there are stuff like that in there by accident, but I'm not going to say I never think about these philosophical questions. But the actual format is itself. Since Peter is a detective, there are magical crimes. Peter solves magical crimes. The end. That's the format, and I think people have a tendency now to overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
like I'm watching Loki, and everyone's kind of like going, "Oh, it's this that."
Wild theories about what's happening.
It's not so much the wild theories. It's like people latch hold of kind of like technical terms, right? Proper industry technical terms, and then apply them madly to anything inside. So like people talk about filler episodes. Now, if you've worked in television, right, a filler episode is literally an episode you write because you've got a gap in the schedule, right? Nobody writes a novel that's a filler novel, right? Because it takes 6 fucking months to write a novel, right? Nobody writes a filler novel. It's just not something that happens. So, and just because like you don't like, if you have, and people latch on, like some people want like meta story, and they want they've got very, because of Lost and all these other things, they've got very kind of attached to the kind of meta story. Or does it advance the main storyline? There is no main storyline, guys. It's like,
that's right.
It's like, things happen because things happen. Things change because things change, but there is no meta storyline.
I think that's very well said. The thing about filler episodes, my understanding would be that in a world where particularly American TV was a model where it was at once when network TV was dominant, and there are 22 to 24 episodes of a show per season, that is a shitload of episodes.
And some of them are the best episodes. Yeah. Right, Duet, right, which is one of the best Deep Space Nine episodes ever written, I think it's called Duet, is a filler episode. It's not only a filler episode, it's a bottle episode, because it's an episode that's like got 3 sets, 5 characters that they could film so they could rest everybody else and cover, not spend the budget on it. And that's one of the best episodes that they ever wrote. And you get that, and also they've re-released like the X-Files is now, I think it's all on Disney or somewhere. I was watching it again. I was thinking, I'm so bored. The UFO stories are the most boring stories. The smoking man, all that kind of stuff. That's just really boring. The best stories in the X-Files are the weird kind of, the tombs and for sure. And the family that had like their mother under the floorboards and things like that. Those were the good X-Files stories. What people dismiss as monster of which is another term, monster of the week episodes. And then there's the whole thing about applying kind of TV, right? As you said, 22 episodes, which is industrial level TV, American television. These industrial TV level kind of ideas, 2 books. It's a different medium, I'm not saying, we don't knock out some books, but it's a different medium with different economic forces working on it and different audience expectations. And so therefore people have a tendency to get hold of these kind of like, I blame TV Tropes, by the way, which is a website I love and cannot, I'm addicted to, but it's like people have a tendency to grab hold of these things. It's like cliffhangers. Yeah. People accuse you, you had a cliffhanger at the end of your book. And go, it's not a cliffhanger unless your heroes are in immediate danger.
Now, actually, you've really triggered a memory in me there by using that term, because I think the first example I can think personally of seeing what I would think of in my mind as being a form of filler episode was like when I was a kid, teenager, when I was watching all the old Republic serials they used to show on BBC Two. And they started with that, with things like Flash Gordon, and then they moved on to the Republic serials like Daredevils and the Red Circle. They would frequently have roundabout, usually about 15 episodes long, roundabout episode 12 or 13, that literally have an episode where characters sit around a desk and reminisce about things that had happened to them in earlier episodes. Yeah, essentially a library episode. Yeah, and if you remember what happened was, you know, that Convict 103 did this, and it's like a greatest hits episode. But as a result, it was actually always quite good because it's just totally fucking action packed. You know, there's about a minute of fresh kind of drama in there, you know, and the rest of it is all just stunt after stunt after stunt.
Well, there you go. I don't remember. I missed those. I mean, I remember vaguely the Buck Rogers, and
yeah,
you know, you know me. If it's not got a spaceship in it, I don't know. You know,
the Flash Gordon spaceships are some of the Buster Crab spaceships in Buck Rogers and whatnot.
That's some of the best things coming out the bottom.
Yeah, they're exactly right, with the fireworks out of the pack.
I love that. You know, I missed that.
So talking about looking back, right? What are the pieces or what are the pieces of entertainment that fed into the DNA of Rivers of London in the first place? You know, when you put it all together, well, what were the primary things in your mind?
The Sweeney,
yeah,
the British police procedurals, you know, the 87th Precinct novels.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
87th Precinct novels, and then on the fantasy side, Lord of the Rings, obviously, but also Terry Pratchett and things like that. All these things feed in, but you know, lots of other things feed in that aren't genre, aren't genre, but aren't obvious, like Robert's Robots and Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, Rent-A-Ghost.
Mate, only you could jam together the 87th Precinct and Robert's Robots in the same glorious kind of conversation. You know,
I was
brilliant.
One while watching the other.
Yeah.
Well, especially sort of like the conceit of Rent-A-Ghost, which is that like they have this people and they have ghosts, and what do? They rent them out. They rent ghosts. Brilliant. It's like, it's the kind of mundanity. See, that's the thing. If you look at Rivers of London, it's the whole idea is you have all this magic, and then you have Peter and Nightingale having to fill in forms about it. That's part of the whole appeal of the thing. You know, it's like it's the actual nitty gritty of dealing with this stuff. So, and also that song, just saying Rent-A-Ghost has got that song stuck in my head again.
Yeah. Oh man, it's impossible to get it out of your head. I
yeah, everyone out there, go on YouTube and look up Rent-A-Ghost, the theme, and see how long it takes you to get that out of your head. And then, you know, all the you know, Joe 19, all sorts of things.
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, everything I've ever watched basically fed into it in the end, I think. Then there was just growing up in London.
Yeah.
My school, my home, my family life, you know, it all just kind of feeds into it's almost very hard sometimes to kind of like do the kind of own literary analysis of your own work, because you know that, like, you know, the literary analysis is only half of it. Yeah. So in a lot of literary analysis, you look at saying, well, what are his influences? Well, obviously he was influenced by such and such a person, you know, and it would be very, I mean, it would be very easy. I was influenced by Neil Gaiman, but I actually only watched 5 minutes of Neverwhere.
Yeah.
Right when it was first on. I never read the comics and I never read the book. And it's not because I went, oh no, Neil Gaiman must not read your book, but I just never read the book.
Yeah. I actually don't think that BBC show is particularly good, to be honest.
Well, I don't know anything about it because I literally watched like 5 minutes of it because no one told. I would have watched it if I'd known it was on, but that was back in the day when, you know, if you didn't see something was on, you missed it, basically. So, and Neverwhere, and so Neverwhere, which looks like it should be this huge influence, right, isn't, right? Whereas Roof World, which no one has ever heard of, big influence, so Rufo, much to his annoyance, much to Fowler's annoyance, because it's not his favorite book. I don't know why he doesn't like it. I really think it's really good. He likes all his Brian, but Brighton May, also by Fowler, I only heard of after I'd started writing the books, and everyone was going, "Oh, this is like Brighton May," and I went, "Oh, well, I'll buy some Brighton May and read those." So things are and you're not always influenced by the obvious things. You're often influenced by the unobvious things, like Hill Street Blues. I'm influenced a lot by Hill Street Blues. I'm influenced by The Bill, which is also influenced by Hill Street Blues. Prime Suspect. God, yes, the original couple series of Prime Suspect and Widows, if we're going to talk about Linda LaPlante.
Wow, yeah, right on.
Right,
Yeah.
all of those things, that kind of gritty kind of London working class kind of stuff. That all came. That all came into it. It was like all that stuff feeds into these books, and then especially the first book where you're basically working at 4 o'clock in the morning, ransacking your brain for anything that will fit. Quick! I need something that fits, and you're just grabbing everything you can get your hands on. So that's, and the tone hasn't settled down. Like the first book is much rougher, much more violent than the subsequent books. Not because I love violence, but because it just the way it came out.
Is that some of the Sweeney quality still? No,
it was much more influenced by horror and mystery horror movies. I think it was much more, and Doctor Who, where there's like a huge body count every single episode.
I had a thought when you were talking. It was funny because you made me something I've been thinking about with Rivers of London in my mind was what it would look like adapted into film or TV, and I thought that I had a few weeks ago. I don't know why this came to me, but I'd been thinking about who would I cast in a Rivers of London TV show? How would it look? And then I sort of had this vision of what it might have looked like if you could go back in time and adapt Rivers of London as a 1960s ITC show, shot on film, on 35mm film, but made around the same time as The Champions.
That would have been 22. You talk about film, we would have had filler episodes for that.
For sure. But I think that would have looked amazing. I could really see it working in a very different way to how you'd adapt it now, but I could absolutely see it working.
It'll be right, Randall and Hopkirk deceased.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Or The Persuaders.
Yeah, The Persuaders.
Cool Barry Gray score.
Absolutely.
Barry Gray or John Barry, who I always get mixed up.
Yeah.
We'd have a cool score from one of those two, and and it would be
yeah, exactly. All those hooks. I mean, you mentioned the Sweeney. I remember rewatching our Sweeney episode recently. We're in the middle of investigating a case. I might have even talked to you about this before. Like Regan and Carter walking down the street, and two sort of 70s like ladies in miniskirts walk past, and they stop talking in the middle of a vital plot point, turn and leer at the two women, cackle to each other, and then carry on the conversation. And that piece of business takes about 90 seconds. They just stop to lear in the middle of.
You think about it, there's a scene like that in the credit sequence for The Persuaders in the opening credits.
There is absolutely
where a
right.
woman in a bikini walks past them and they turn around and go, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it's so true. I think actually the two of the ones you've named, Persuaders and Randall and Hopkirk, well, I think they're a very an interesting analogy to Rivers of London. Is both of those themes are both exciting and kind of ominous at the same time. They both tick those boxes, because the Persuaders theme starts in this almost kind of, ominous, almost kind of melancholy way before it kicks off, when it's going through their respective paths.
Yes.
And it's the same with Randall and Hopkirk, and I think that's why they're such massive earworms. I mean, Rent-A-Ghost is an earworm for sure, but those two theme tunes, nearly all of those ITC shows have amazing theme tunes that never leave you.
I think Persuaders had there are a couple of really good theme songs from that era, and one of them is The Persuaders. The other one is Joe 90, which is
yes.
You listen to it, you just can't get it out of your head, and the Rent-A-Ghost is almost accidentally an earworm.
Yes,
because it's like obviously someone spent like 5 minutes on it, and it's
yeah.
Persuaders, that's I can't remember which one. It's either John Barry or Barry Gray sitting down and just
Yeah,
going,
it's John Barry. Yeah, for sure.
I will now make you a tune. It's like a full orchestration.
Yeah.
It's like a complex melody with, I don't know the technical terms, but you can hear there's kind of quite a lot going on in that piece of music, with the kind of like up and down and all the other bits that I don't know about because I'm not a musician. So
yeah, no, it's beautifully hypnotic. Also, the Persuaders has one of the best end title cards I've ever seen. Lord Brett Sinclair's Clothes, designed by Roger Moore.
Oh yes. Oh, well, that was back in the day when you would have things like wardrobe, such and such a woman's wardrobe done by such and such a person. It was
Edith Head or whatever, yeah.
Or such and such
gowns by,
makeup by, hair by. Obviously, and then shot in the south of France, then cutting into Pinewood.
Pinewood.
I wonder how often bit of stock shot. It was always a surprise when they actually turned out. You pulled back and they were actually in the location. It was like, oh, we're in the south.
Oh wow, yeah.
They must have done them in blocks. They must have just gone and shot all the things in like blocks, because this was ITC, so it was not like hugely expensive.
Now, I am going to park the great and always entertaining Ben Aaronovitch and our conversation about the almighty ITC shows of the 60s right there, because Ben, as usual, had a lot more great stuff to say about that subject and about 10 years of Rivers of London. And we'll be coming to back to that conversation in another episode very soon. So I'll see you there then. Take care. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.